Good day. Welcome. Welcome to this next episode of our podcast, 50 to 70 Meaningful Conversations Between Men. My name is Peter Callan. I'm delighted to be here with my co-host, Darius Naigamwala.
Every time it gets better, Peter.
And I'm glad that the audience is also here with us. Darius, say hello to the audience.
Hello, everybody. This is hopefully a lot of you guys have been, or gals, have been listening to these podcasts, and special invite to any women that are listening to better understand the men in their lives. Great to have you guys here with us as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. We don't want to exclude the women, but we feel there's such a need for men to have meaningful conversations. Our focus is there. So, what are we talking about today?
So today's conversation is going to be, it's evolved. We were going to initially focus it on the benefits of microstressors being anything that stimulates the body to repair and grow. But for those listeners of the podcast, you've hopefully picked up by now that we're not just about physical well-being. We want to integrate the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual well-being. So today's podcast is going to be about continuing to grow and to challenge yourself in this 50 to 70 time period to try new things, to learn new things. We'll give some examples. We'll talk about some of the benefits and our experiences with them. But that's what we're going to be talking about today is the need to grow. And, when somebody once told me, if you're not growing, you're shrinking. Now, I don't know if I agree with that binary mentality, but if you're not growing, well, then you're not changing, then you're not evolving. And in my mind, you're taking a back seat. You're letting forces dictate where you go. This is being more active and making a conscious decision to try new things and to open yourself up to those experiences.
So what comes up for me is, so what? Why is growth and evolution important?
Yeah, well, I guess it's one of those ones. I'd love to have you answer your own question.
Well, I just don't see how you live a life that's fulfilled, joyful, experiences love, experiences pain, success, failure, if you're not pushing yourself to grow and learn.
I agree. And in my mind, you don't have the experiences. If all we do is that which we are accustomed to and it is our habit, we're essentially living the same day over and over again. I mean, I love that movie Groundhog Day. And I think one of the things that Bill Murray does in that movie, he takes advantage of the situation that is presented to him and he learns new things. Not only is he of service to everybody in that town, which is the overarching message, but he learns things along the way as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something new you've tried. And what prompted you to do it, your experience with it.
Let me guess, does it have anything to do with?
It can be anything you want.
Oh, how about cold?
Cold. Yeah, there's quite a trend these days about cold therapy. Well, why don't you share your experience?
Well, it's not the first time. As a young athlete, University of Michigan, we dropped into ice baths periodically, and I did it a couple of times. But now, fast forward decades later, and it's become a trend. It's become a practice that can invigorate, help heal, promote the well-being of the body. And so you have been doing it for a while, and you invited me to share with you your infrared sauna, which I'm guessing a lot of people have done hot saunas. But then you invited me to step into an ice bucket. I call it a bucket. It's a little bit bigger than a bucket.
Not much.
And sit in it for as long as I could tolerate it. And what are the benefits of that again?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the benefits, one, and I have a cold shower every morning. So it's something that...
yeah, that's another thing I forgot to mention. Darius has been trying to get me to take cold showers, so...
hot shower, cold shower, and I can tell you it takes a year for it to become a habit. Most habits are formed in 60 days. This one takes a year. The benefits, to answer your question, well, one, you have the mental benefit of, if I can sit in this ice for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I can do anything. The cold shower in the morning, the benefits, I wake up in the morning, not primed, I guess is the best way to say it. I get in the shower and 7 minutes warm, and then I go cold. And about 4 minutes into the cold, the body wakes up.
Yeah.
And running down the stairs in the morning, everything feels loose, ready to go. The cold benefits are, I mean, when you go from the sauna, and the sauna takes your body temperature up well above normal, right to the cold. The best way it was explained to me is it's like kickstarting an engine, right? You're going from the heat to the cold. And the heat is dilating everything. Everything is relaxed. Everything is flushed. And then you get in the cold and everything contracts. So that lymph, it gets circulated right through you and pushes it through. There's a lot of biochemistry around the release of heat shock proteins and cold shock proteins and the beneficial effects on the body. And I can tell you, getting out of it, I feel great.
Yeah. And I can relate. I have each time that I've tried it, when I've been visiting you and you've shared that experience with me. But you said something that I want to highlight for our audience about the effects on the mental
Mm-hmm.
and beyond mental acuity, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are tales of yogis and
Mm-hmm.
monks who sit in the snow and in the Himalayas and are able to generate heat through the control of their minds. And so I wonder about things like that, if they're really possible, if it's just a myth, if it's true. There is some video on it, but what I would focus our audience on is what if there's this capacity to train your brain in ways that you haven't learned. And so here's another way of practicing and training your brain, like you said, to sustain discomfort, to sustain, to focus and be clear. And I have noticed that each time that I've gotten in the ice bath is I have focused on keeping my mind present and not on the discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
Noticing, just as in my meditation practicing, noticing what else is around, what else is going on in that moment. It's not just the cold, it's other things. So that's a training and a reframing of the brain.
It is. And you can do that. The cold, in my mind, is a catalyst. It's an accelerant for that reframing. Because when you get in, your body has a reaction, right? You gasp, you hold your breath, your heart starts racing. The sauna is the same thing. You can get in and you can choose to watch something on TV, or you can choose just to feel your heartbeat. One of the things I love to do, and I told you this the other night, I just love to count the sweat as it drips off of my head onto the
And
ground.
I tell you, I thought that was a bit peculiar. Anyways,
I'm not going to make a judgment, peculiar
no
or not.
judgment.
It's just, it is. And I enjoy it because for those 2 minutes, just my whole focus is on that beat of sweat coming down.
2 minutes comprised of how many seconds, right? Like 120 seconds.
120
so
seconds.
That's a lot of moments.
It absolutely is. So you're talking about training the brain in different ways. And I think that's really important. When was the last time you learned something new? When was the last time you did something different out of your comfort zone? And what prompted you to do that?
Feels like all the time.
See, that's the way it should be.
Feels like I try to look for places where I can learn and make adjustments, knowing that in and of itself is promotes being present, living in the now, as opposed to relying on only my past experiences, what I've learned, which has already changed because the environment, situations, everything's changed. You've changed, as opposed to having, again, a reference to mindfulness, a beginner's mind, a curiosity, a learning for the first time, because things are not exactly the same way you learned them, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Developed a habit or conditioning.
I think what you're saying is just so important because if we don't learn new things, the circuitry in the brain gets locked, right? We always write with our right hand. Well, when I was in my early 20s, I broke a couple fingers on my right hand. And so in my senior year of undergrad, I had to take notes with my left hand for a couple of months. And there was a ton of new wiring that had to get put in my brain. So something as simple as writing with your offhand,
Mm.
or if you always brush your teeth with your right hand, brush it with your left hand. Try things that are different to create and propagate the neuroplasticity of the brain. And neuroplasticity is a fancy word for flexibility and acuity, right? Keep that blood flow going to the brain. Keep the brain challenged. What Peter and I are talking about with the ice plunge and the sauna, that challenges you physically. And we're offering people the opportunity to incorporate the mental practice as
Mm-hmm.
well. But it's the same thing with everything you do. Look for opportunities to challenge the brain, to keep that brain young and vibrant and learning and growing as we progress from 50 to 70 and then to 90.
Yeah. Yeah. And not only have you shared the ice bath and the sauna with me, but you've also introduced me to hyperbaric chambers, the oxygen enhancement in the capsule. You're more familiar and you know the science better. You want to share that with the audience?
Yeah, so it's hyperbaric oxygen has been approved as a therapy for a number of different indications, most notably wound healing, diabetic foot ulcers, burns. But there is clinical evidence for a range of other ailments or host of diseases, ranging from Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all the way down to joint healing. And so Peter and I do partake in hyperbaric oxygen where you get in a chamber, the pressure is increased. It's kind of like scuba diving. And then oxygen is pumped in. And the theory is that oxygen not only saturates your red blood cells, but goes directly into the blood itself so it can get into spots where it otherwise couldn't. And um, it has effects on me physically that I've noticed on my skin, on my hair, on my energy levels, on the lingering tendinitis that I've had. And if you hear anecdotal reports of professional athletes that have suffered serious injuries, they're all using this.
Yes.
One of the premier football leagues, I can't remember which one it is, bought a 4-person hyperbaric oxygen chamber for their athletes to aid in post-recovery after a workout.
Yeah. So that's the physical and physiological. Are you aware of any mental brain benefits if you oxygenate the brain? Or there?
It promotes one of the things that hyperbaric oxygen does. It promotes the formation of new vasculature, new blood vessels, and not just in areas where they're not well oxygenated, like the ligaments and the tendons, but in the brain as well. And that makes sense how it's having the effect on Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. It's getting blood and new blood vessels and flow up to the brain.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did this modality relate to our emphasis of this episode in learning
and trying new things, right? Because that's what we're talking about. So when I got divorced, I had more time on my hand. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with myself? I'm going to learn to play guitar. Okay, I'm going to learn to play guitar. And I'm a good rhythm guitarist. I'm not one of those guys that can make the guitar scream and do all sorts of crazy stuff. But a couple of years ago, I was taking my sons to music lessons, and they were taking voice lessons. So I was sitting there in the lobby, playing on my phone while they took lessons. After 3 months of this, part of me said, why aren't you taking lessons? So I emailed the teacher and said, well, I'm going to be here, so I may as well start taking lessons too. So sign me up at the same time. Then we had a wonderful conversation about how I might not be the oldest student there, but I'm one of the 3 oldest students there. You're never too late to learn.
Had you ever taken guitar lessons before? Ever wanted to before?
So guitar lessons, I had wanted to. I'm taking voice lessons, and that is I'd never wanted to. None.
Okay.
But now I enjoy it. So it's always learning. And the other thing I'd encourage our readers to do is something I stopped doing but have picked up in the last couple of years. Just read a book.
Yeah.
There's so much out there, and we've mentioned this in one of our other podcasts, that the book that you need to read will find you.
Yes.
It might already be sitting in your living room. It might already be sitting on your bookshelf. Something's going to call to you. Just pick up that book and start reading.
Yeah, just keep evolving at all levels.
Mm-hmm.
And recognize that all levels means your brain, your body, emotionally too, because we sometimes forget that.
Yeah.
And then spiritually or energetically also. All areas that have continuous potential for growth. And we forget, we ignore.
Yeah, well, if we think about it, let's use a very visual example. You go to the gym, right? You're working out your muscles. You're practicing your muscles. Your muscles are getting bigger. What we're saying is do the same thing for your mind, right? Focus on things. Focus on trying new things so that your mind continues to expand. Because if you don't expand your mind, over time, I see a couple things happen. One, people become, what's the word I'm looking to? Victims of their own habits. That's it. This is what we're going to do. Very regimented, very stiff, very stale. And that precludes opportunities for growth. You don't even see the doors that are open in front of you.
Darius, hold on a second. It's comfortable. It's pleasant.
It's pleasant. Is it pleasant? Let's actually challenge that. Is it pleasant, or is that what you've been conditioned to do? Are you afraid to try something new? Or have you forgotten how to try something new? Just try something new. In case you guys can't tell, we're going to have a call to action in a few minutes. The call to action is going to be pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
Just try something new.
Yeah.
Do something you wanted to do, something you haven't done in a long time.
Yeah. And just a reminder, when we were younger, when I was younger, nobody had to remind me to try something new. Nobody reminded me to learn and be curious and explore. As a matter of fact, probably was kind of suppressed a bit.
I agree with that.
And but it set the foundation for the rest of my life. And it just has the experiences of living in life, even with the failures and the successes. I look back now, I am so delighted. I'm so happy. I have had so many joyful experiences. I've had some really sad and difficult ones too, but that's just life. In the classes I teach, the MBSR, and the coaching that I do, I try to share that life is just an odyssey, and every odyssey is an adventure. Life is an adventure, and it's a challenge. It'll be a challenge, but there are also treasures.
Every point of the journey is the destination.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you're talking about. So we're encouraging or inviting our leaders to try, our listeners, to try something new, to find ways to stimulate your brain. And you know what? It might be a crossword puzzle. That's a great way to stimulate your brain.
Yeah.
Right? It might be doing a regular jigsaw puzzle. It might be sitting down and playing a game with your kids of trivia. Just do something that starts you learning again.
Yeah. And I'll say something important, related to aging, the importance of these little trivia games or puzzles and crossword puzzles to keeping the brain sharp and keeping the mind from eroding, slowing down the degeneration. And there's plenty of science that evidences that.
And the other thing I'll say when we're talking about learning something new, learn something that you're passionate or interested about. If you choose to go down and do something because of an external force, well, you might make it through, but odds are you're going to quit. Versus if you do something that you're passionate about, odds are as you get better at it, you're going to become more and more passionate about it. So find something, find an area of interest. Right? Maybe you want to take piano and you haven't taken piano, or maybe you wanted to learn how to play a different instrument, or you want to take interpretive dance. Go ahead and take it.
Yeah, something you had maybe thought of doing, hoped to do one day. Now's the time.
Yeah.
Present.
Peter, other thoughts on this subject, the lifelong learning? Any challenges that people need to be aware of as they embark on this? Because I will say one thing, there's always going to be a reason for you not to.
Well, that's true. There's always excuses, but those excuses are based
exactly
on
right.
things you've learned and behaviors that have been conditioned. They're not necessarily valid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to invalidate anybody's excuses, but I'm trying to open up space to consider
That's what they are, Peter. It's an excuse.
that
Justification.
there's another option available to our audience. And that option is an evolution at levels that we already have the capacity for,
Mm-hmm.
but we get locked in, we get stuck by our social, cultural, our familial, our, all the samskaras,
Mm-hmm.
the imprints in our psyche that we've learned over millions of moments.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're present, and if our mindset, my mindset has been, I'm just going to see what's happening now and see what's new that I can learn. If I don't know it, maybe I should explore it.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. It's exactly right. Infuse the passion.
Yeah.
Avoid the excuses. And be judgment-free while you're doing it.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
It really does. So, Peter, our call to action. I know we touched on it earlier.
Well, our call to action is just go learn something. I mean, it's not difficult. Go out there and learn something, hopefully that you're passionate about or interested in. And something that's different, that's not in your wheelhouse right now. And yet,
just a little out of your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Just a little out.
Yeah.
Try something a little new.
It's okay to challenge you and to fail and learn from that experience.
Yeah, that word failure, it's so subjective. What may be perceived as a failure is a blessing in disguise. I can tell you as a surfer, I have quote unquote failed hundreds, if not thousands of times.
There are some philosophers who say that failure is not an experience.
Mm-hmm.
You don't fail, you learn.
That's it. That's exactly it. So I've got a good poem on challenges.
Ooh, excited to hear this.
By Richard Williams. It makes no difference who you are, your age, your sex, or what you do. And though you may not be a star, you can't avoid not being you. So take a moment, think a bit. You don't know what you're missing till you take the plunge of trying it. And all that's needed is the will. So when's the last time you dared to do something not done before? Just view it as adventure fared, to then enjoy the pleasures stored. It's a far more eloquent way of what we've been saying, which is quit hesitating, learn something new.
Nice.
You're never too late.
Nice. Great job with that.
As always, we'll be posted at agedifferently.com. Feedback, welcome, comments appreciated. And that's it for this episode. Again, I'm Darius Nagamwala. My co-host Peter Callan say thank you and have a wonderful day.
Take care, everyone.